So, Sylvia, does it continue in the face of the Fed meeting next week, starting to look to roll back some of its emergency stimulus, potentially talk about higher interest rates, fiscal stimulus wearing off, uncertainty over what's coming out of Washington? Can this run continue?
I think it can continue, and to sort of elaborate on Mike's point, I think that, what has also been super interesting about this is, now everybody's sort of pouring into the market and chasing gains. But I think on the dips, a lot of people were panic selling too. So those opened up opportunities for traders to come in and actually get some of these names on those 4 to 5% pullbacks that we saw a little while ago. So I think September doldrums are over. The consumer is strong. The market is just absolutely flush with liquidity. It's about 50% of GDP. And I think that there's, sort of nowhere to go besides crypto and equities right now in order to get a return on your money. But, to your question about Fed and rate hikes, I still don't see that coming just because we're not exactly where we need to be with the jobs numbers. I expect the taper is priced into the market. And I think that interest rates are still far enough off that they're not going to disturb us. And even when they're on the table, they're going to be slow and steady. So I am bullish. And I think that actually, given the supply constraints, the end of 2022 is going to look even better than this October has in terms of monthly performances.
Let's hit the oil giants. Exxon and Chevron both reporting their third quarter results this morning. Let's get to CNBC's Pippa Stevens for more on the numbers. Pippa.
Hey, Sarah, it was a good quarter for Chevron and Exxon as profits surged to multi-year highs on the heels of this rebound in oil and gas prices. Chevron beat expectations by a wide margin and posted its highest free cash flow on record. Exxon saw its biggest profit in 7 years, and it plans to spend up to $10 billion on buybacks. After a trying year, Exxon CEO Darren Woods saying this morning on Squawk Box that the company remains focused on a capital discipline.
The steps that we took in 2018, 2019, and through the pandemic, cutting our cost, becoming more capital efficient, reorganizing the businesses, are now delivering results. If you look at the plans that we set ourselves to grow earnings and cash flow back in 2018 to double earnings and cash flow, we're basically back on track to do that.
Both companies also highlighting their low-carbon spending plans one day after Woods and Chevron CEO Mike Wirth appeared before Congress for the industry's role in climate disinformation. Guys, back to you.
Pippa, thank you. It is, Sylvia, kind of an odd juxtaposition because oil prices are at multi-year highs. The reopening trade is on. Economies are coming back. All of that is good for these companies, and yet at the same time, all the countries are really getting more aggressive and pledging these initiatives to fight climate change and go to zero emissions. So what do you do with these stocks?
I think that these stocks are great for the short term. They were just absolutely hammered during COVID when people were sort of staying at home. Nobody was driving and consuming gas. So, Exxon had their best reporting quarter in about 3 years. They're paying a dividend for the first time. These companies have some cash again. So in the short term, I think that they're poised to rise just because we're getting back out there. Winter's coming. It's sort of a seasonally strong period for these stocks. But to your point, I just think the game is going to change, and it has to change soon because there's been so much talk about going carbon neutral. And the best way to do that is to consider hydrogen as an alternative energy source. So it's the most abundant element on the earth, and we're finding more cost-efficient ways to actually use it to power vehicles, cranes, factories, things like that. So I just think that this story is going to flip-flop over time. So short term, I like it, Exxon and Chevron, but I just think that long term with the climate prejudice, to your point, these stocks are going to fall out of favor.